Good evening and welcome to Prime Business. My name is Emma Davis. News just in is that Ghana's debt stock reached 567 billion cedis ending September last year. This was captured in the latest Bank of Ghana's economic and financial data released today. My colleague George Yafe has been going through the report and joins me in studio with more. Hi, George.
Hi, Emma.
Based on the numbers, can you tell us if it's going up or coming down?
Well, it depends on the metrics that you want to use here in making an assessment of Ghana's debt situation. Now, ending this, that is September last year, it stood somewhere around 567 billion Ghana cedis. If you look at that compared to the same period for last year, that is in September 2022, it stood at 446 billion Ghana cedis. So if you want to look at just the nominal numbers, it has gone up because in such instances, you want to look at a year-to-date or a year-on-year comparison. But if you measure our debt situation in comparison to the total value of our economy or the debt-GDP ratio, we've seen some significant reduction going in somewhere around 66% of the total value of our economy. So if you look at the nominal numbers, it has gone up. But if you look at the debt-GDP ratio, we have seen some significant reduction from the 70 range dropping to the 60-something range. And maybe some would say that those are the true mechanisms or those are the real values that some would want to use when assessing a country's debt situation, whether it is bad, it is good. So when you look at the debt-GDP ratio, it is going down.
Yeah, you've talked about the GDP ratio.
Debt ratio.
What about the external and domestic?
Well, if you look at the external debt ending September last year, it stood somewhere around 326 billion Ghana cedis. And don't forget that these are loans that we've taken in dollars and it's been converted into Ghana cedis. So obviously you have a very high value, and that is somewhere around 326 billion Ghana cedis. If you look at the domestic component, these are bonds, treasury bills, and borrowings that government has done from the commercial banks. You're looking at somewhere around 260 billion Ghana, and these are the numbers for both the external and the domestic position, Emma.
Would you say the restructuring impacted these numbers?
It is so difficult because if you look at the nominal numbers compared to last year and this year, it appears that we are still yet to look at or see that domestic debts or that restructuring impacting on these debt numbers. So if I want to base my judgment on the nominal numbers, for instance, last year, September, it was somewhere around 446 billion Ghana cedis. But that is in 2022, sorry, Emma, in 2022, September, our debt situation stood at 446 billion Ghana cedis. If you come to September 2023, it stood somewhere around 567 billion Ghana cedis. So if I want to look at the nominal numbers, then you would say that we haven't seen that yet. But also, if you want to look at the debt-GDP ratio, making that comparison, the argument is that the economy has expanded. So I don't think that we've still seen the impact of this restructuring of our debt on the IMF report. I said that even though we have started the process, we are still classified as a debt-distressed country. And that was the main reason why the fund actually pushed for us to restructure our debt, because we have gotten to that level where we may struggle, or we are not in the position, or we could struggle in meeting our debt obligations going forward as a country.
Will the IMF or the World Bank, any of the cashes we've received recently, help us out of this?
I mean, Emma, and don't forget that this data is based on last year. For instance, this debt-GDP ratio, that was somewhere in September 2023. Maybe if we get the new data for this year, maybe for Q1, maybe these numbers will be impacted by whatever action that government has taken. Don't forget that these new loans that are coming in are very low, are cheap compared to those old loans that we've taken. And how will those interest dynamics also impact on Ghana's debt situation as well? So, yeah, these are old data. This is based on last year ending September. Maybe the Q1 data, we might be able to see whether the restructuring of Ghana's debts, they are impacting on our debt position as a country.
Oh, we hope that that happens soon. But then anything else we should...
Well, if you also want to look at our export earnings as well, you will see that there has also been a slight decrease compared to what we had ending September this year to the same period last year as well. If you also look at the money that we spent on our imports, we've seen some significant increase as well. If you want to look at how the Bank of Ghana has been able to measure the cedi's depreciation against the US dollar, you're looking at somewhere around 27% as well. So these are some interesting numbers if you want to dig deep in the Bank of Ghana's latest economic and financial data and how the economy has fared, i.e. our debt, i.e. our currency, and also if you want to look at our mobile money, the value of transactions, we've seen it again cross that trillion mark in terms of the value of transactions that took place in the economy for last year. And that will be interesting because some are saying that in terms of mobile money transactions, activities are moving from the banker's space to that space as well. And that's why some will even say that that might have influenced the government decision to introduce that e-levy and whether indeed they are getting the required revenue or not.
I was coming to the e-levy. Would you say it hasn't impacted?
Well, the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority claimed that there were some bottlenecks that affected government in getting the required revenue from this particular tax type. And based on the work that they've done to block these loopholes, going forward this year, we will see the numbers picking up. But again, yes, of course, it means that a lot of persons who are using this platform have found ways to circumvent the process when it comes to payment of taxes. And therefore, even though the value of transactions have shot up to the trillion Ghana cedis, in terms of what government is getting from this tax type, it is still way below what it has projected in the budget and what it was expecting to get from this tax type when it comes to revenue mobilization.
Thank you very much, George, for the numbers. George Uafe is an editor with the Joy Business Desk. Moving on, a consortium of banks today moved to seize assets of produce buying company, including its headquarters at Jolu. This was after it secured a court order over non-payment of debts of over 300 million Ghana cedis. James Eshen was at the headquarters of Produce Buying Company.
We are here at the Produce Buying Company Limited, and what is happening here is an order of execution having some bailiff attached to some properties here at the premises of the company. And basically this is in line with the Produce Buying Company Limited owing an amount to the tune of 295 million Ghana cedis, and this happens to do with some banks, which of course this company is actually owing them. Let me quickly run you through the name of these banks. The Produce Buying Company is actually owing this amount. So on the list we have Agricultural Development Bank, we have the Bank of Africa, also Cow Bank, GCB Bank, Universal Merchant Bank, as well as the United Bank of Africa. These 6 banks have formed a consortium and want their money. I understand they've engaged reps from the Produce Buying Company Limited for some time now, but it appears they've not really gotten the exact result or a proper timeline on when they're supposed to get their money. We're trying as much as possible to speak to the managing director of the Produce Buying Company.
How would you know that it's someone's private car when they've not brought any document to show that it's someone's private car? So let's attach it, and then they bring the document to show that it's someone's private car.
What's happening behind me is a towing car there, which of course is here to tow about 4 cars belonging to the Produce and Buying Company here at their premises. We've been trying to engage a rep or possibly the managing director for the company, but it seems they are not willing to have any sort of conversations we've had. This is basically in line with the fact that this particular company owed them an amount that is over 300 million Ghana cedis. This is one of the many actions that will be taking place here at the premises of the Produce and Buying Company Limited. We understand that this actually started somewhere on the 9th of October 2023, which of course the plaintiffs actually decided to, file this application. And if this is being done today, and after 3 months or possibly some months, and they are not getting better response, or these consortium of banks are not getting better response from the Produce and Buying Company Limited, according to the bailiff here, they would have with no option than to auction this building that we see here, that is the Produce and Buying Company Limited premises. So that is the situation we're having here at the Produce and Buying Company Limited.
Meanwhile, economist Professor Lord Mensah is calling for the privatization of the produce buying company as soon as possible before the company folds up. According to him, that's the only way out for the company to wean itself from the current financial dilemma.
You look at the, the asset liability of the produce company. I think they've taken more liabilities than they can swallow, and I'm surprised at that. And when I got to know the news, I jumped into the shareholdings of produce, company, and you get to know that government of Ghana owns the largest share, about 40%, and that tells you that yes, things are not going on in the country. I mean, it tells you that the mismanagement is clear on us to the extent of cars being towed from site here and there. And you see, we cannot hide this economic mismanagement. Let me be truthful for you. We cannot hide it in a sense that it has affected most of the SOEs. And at the end of the day, we will wait until to a point where companies cannot even get money to buy tires, where drivers will sacrifice their money to buy second-hand tires before we get to know that the economy has gotten to a level or not. So from where I sit, I think it has to do with economic mismanagement. Cocoa body itself is gone, and that has transmitted into PVC, and I'm not surprised. But I mean, for you to run a cocoa agency, I mean, which the beans is always on the market. I mean, I don't think there's a point where we've sent our beans out there that we don't have market for it. In fact, we even go for loans in advance before we send the beans. So at what point, do we have to run all this difficulty, when it gets to cocoa buying, companies? We don't need a budget bailout. As far as the same management is in place, budget bailout will not change anything. We have to, make sure we privatize it, and then, the private man will inject some money. Other than that, it will be government money being recycled here and there, and that is not a way to come out from economic quagmire.
In a minute, does this also paint a worrying picture for the entire cocoa sector, and how can it be addressed going forward?
Oh, it does. I mean, cocoa board itself is struggling, and if cocoa board, who can go for international loans to a point where they were even attracting lower interest than the government, raising money from the Eurobond market has deteriorated to this level.
Away from PBC-related stories, 3 of the Big 4 professional service firms, KPMG, PwC and Deloitte, have launched a campaign aimed at increasing advisory and tax services to support capital raising for small and medium enterprises in Ghana, with backing from the Ghana Venture Capital and Private Equity Private Equity Association and the Ghana Investment Support Program. Here's more in this report.
With funds from the British International Investment, this collaboration signals a transformative shift in the landscape of business advisory and tax services, which highlights the commitment of these industry leaders to contribute to the growth of the private equity ecosystem and improve access to finance for SMEs. As part of the campaign, KPMG, PwC and Deloitte have made a collective pledge to provide increased accessibility to their services for SMEs looking to raise capital. Here is Chief Executive for the Ghana Venture Capital Association, Hannah Akwa.
It's all about ensuring that SMEs and investment firms, there's a alignment. And at the end of the day, Ghana is working. Ghana is continuously churning out viable businesses via our own Ghanaian investment firms.
So is there any particular target for this particular project?
There's no target. As you heard the big three say, whatever sector you're in, whatever business you're in, there is no target at all. We will at least recommend that if you are a startup, it's important to understand the spectrum of the investment cycle.
Partners at Deloitte and KPMG have been speaking to Joy Business on how the initiative aligns with their goals for the SME sector.
So a lot of the SMEs you've interacted with, or if you talk to any small and medium-sized entity, they'll tell you they walk to a bank or they met an investor who refused to give them the money. So their main problem is lack of access to financing or lack of access to funds to expand their business. We think it's similar to anybody who is walking on the street and has got a headache. The headache is only a symptom of something that's bigger. And so for us at Deloitte, we provide what we call SME support services to help them assess the financing. So for you to be able to be investor ready, we take you through an investor readiness support.
From preparing people or organizations to make them investor ready, post-investment, giving them support services to help their businesses to thrive and to make their businesses sustainable. The number of services that we render in that space. So before anyone gives you invest in you, they usually would want to be sure that you are a credible partner or a credible business for them to put their money to you. Within this collaboration, we are going to be working with the various players, okay, to ensure that the people that they want to invest in are investor ready. So there are a number of diagnostics that we do on these businesses.
This initiative is expected to have profound impact as it empowers businesses with quality advisory and tax services that improve investment readiness.
Now to one developing story. The General Transport Petroleum Chemical Workers Union of TUC has issued a 5-day ultimatum to government to recall 2 staff members of Tema Oil Refinery and executive members of the union who have been interdicted. The 2, Sewa Duncan Williams and Anthony Kumsin, have been interdicted by the board of Tema Oil Refinery for engaging the media on a partnership deal between the refinery and Tarenco Assets Management Limited in October 2023. The board took the decision to sanction the 2 in December last year over their comments deemed damaging to TOR's image. Chairman of the union, Bernard Owusu, says they will embark on a sit-down strike after next week Friday if government fails to reinstate those interdicted.
The impact in the economy, we will be having fuel shortages. Lights will be going off, which we don't want to get there. Life is not easy. Now that government want to even tax us on electricity, which the TUC has declared no-go area, that within the next 31st of this month, if government don't reverse that decision, we are going to even join TUC to embark on that strike action. Our members, you know already, the pay that we take home is not even a take-home pay. It's take to a level that you don't even get home. So currently they are in a very serious, financial challenges. But their spirits are high because they've not done anything that warrants such, excuse my language, stupid decision to sort of interdicting them, because it is not right. Okay. For us, we are doing what is right. As we speak today, the government of Ghana is, commissioning Central Refinery, which we have nothing against it. But you have your own refinery built by Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. We've not been able to maintain it, and it's in this state. It's a shame. It's a shame that a government of the day will just pass through in front of TOR, and you see the mess in TOR. and you go and commission a new refinery. As workers and as unionists, our interest is to ensure that the refinery work and we as workers also have our daily bread. That is all that we seek to do.
Chief Executive of the African Energy Consortium, Dr. Kwame Jantua, has emphasized the importance of having a common currency for Africa. He believes cross-border trade cannot take place without efficient and unified payment systems. He spoke to Joy Business on the sideline of the Africa Prosperity Dialogue.
The Continental Free Trade Area aims to boost intra-African trade by 53%. However, its effectiveness is hampered by the multitude of currencies used across the continent. Meanwhile, the Chief Executive Officer of the African Energy Consortium Limited, Dr. Kwame Jantua, believes it's high time African government prioritize the common currency agenda to enhance economic stability while advancing trade.
What do we term as SME in this country? What level of industry is SME? Is it a tabletop? Is that what you call SME? Is it those who are doing semi-manufacturing? What is SME? You need to define what SME is, and you need to make sure that you can hold the hand of SME to become the next billion-dollar company in Africa. But I think if we have started doing this, one of the major things our government should push is a single currency. A single currency. Yes, I know nowadays there is a system in place where you can export to other countries, Nigeria, and be paid in local currency and vice versa. But I think the single currency issue, like AFCTFA mentioned, is key for Africa's prosperity. Look at America, look at Europe. They all have single currencies. And we have to push it and push it strongly so that we don't have fluctuation in what? Our currency. One currency, one exchange rate, and then we move on.
A single currency for Africa may seem like a distant dream, but the progress made with the AfTA and regional currency initiatives demonstrate a growing commitment to continental integration.
Onion traders at the Ajen Kotoku market are lamenting the low patronage of their items despite some reduction in the prices of onions. On today's edition of the Joy Business Shopping List, my colleague Jesse Magbako visits the Ajen Kotoku market to gauge the prices of onions.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Joy Business Shopping List. Today we'll put the spotlight on the onion industry. Now onions form an integral part of our everyday meals. According to the Ghana Onion Industry Outlook, Ghana is expected to consume about 250,000 metric tons of onion by 2026. But just how much do you and I have to pay to acquire these onions? Today we are at the Ajen Kotoku market to find out the cost of buying onions.
I say the onion is above from Kakra and this is first no. But I say dear, Yantoa dear, Ukra Mefa said it is scanning 8 million, Ubenya Biato, Ukra 1,000, Ubenya Biato. But they say I got fat there about 2 weeks in the Magafa way. Yanto Jenaya Basa. Yantoa de se sia metie kura o mamiska kura maji yantoa de o ne ne yetone 2 million titi scan 2 million but na de akofam ka kente 15 na de ma bobo no so 10 cedi o ba kura 50 memo obi 100 memo obi de o pa bia memo obi ato but nipa ne ma Kotoku market aye din nipa ne ma nti yesrewom aya no wombra ene noma na akofam kakranti womomra wommembeto ade momfamaye wo ba bibia wo wa banche mole wo ho eblo wo ho meko e wo ho de ayam de ayam ina ebi wo ho ba bibia obenya de pepe na wo de akọ
nko force complain says si a uko other places are jenenu ni boaye din
sa ahane ne womo de gende ne ba nti aha de enye ti say far away no chire no aha de wo ba anytime bia obenya je na bia de ato Sunday if Monday kapim Sunday de bia obebia obeye die na ato but nkofo ne ma ekwan ne so nye ekwan ne nye kotoku kwan ne nye nti yesre nana yesre MP enwo mo mboaye na ekwan no nye ye mayen na obi fi ba bi ba wababoto nyomana de de omo de amayen
first ni de na ne boy den pa by sesi ade nyame adum ti eye kakra na bronya ni mu na botton no omo de mayen 1,500, 1,400, 1,300. Nti saa tam na ye hye ni se ya na ye hye ni saa ti se ebia obi ba obebo no 300 onya 25 na waje na saa tam na we so half no na ye hye no 25 by sesi ade na no kura mpo we se me fa botto no 900 nti we na nkai wase me ne 700 by ende no omo ase ateso aha nti e ma sesi ande no ye di we ne je 15 Yeleje 1515 we nyere akase ne ye 15 na we no 100 na ya hyene ne ndem nya boto no 6 million minya no 600 nti me hye we 100 na me hye we 1515 se na ebe ya boto ba ko minya we mienu a 1515 na menya 300 na nketwa na aka na maton 100 na de nketinketi na eda ho ne de ye hyene 70 se na ebe ya me so menya rubber scan de kakra medi wu se sia de ya ndey ya ye kai de eye kakra mo ate so ba je ne wo mu difference too ye wo galami na ye wo Nigeria say ye tongalami 8 million ye beto Nigeria 7 million na 6 million Nigeria na ya na ne bo wo from esingalami no enti se obi bana se wo ko bisa Nigeria bo na we ma no mo say 1.2 na wo ba me ho na me say 1.5 a e bia na wo nim difference ni ntira galami ne bo ye din esin Nigeria no na ye white no Nigeria na ye kokko no nti Nigeria ne bonko na je galami ne bonko nti obi bana o say 15 se okobisa wa kokko no wa ha na ye say 12 na wo ba na wo say 15 onim se ono ma bo aye din ama enye sa ne bo no bottom no e difference obi wa ha onim se gende bia e gende ba e wo mu difference white no wo say e de esin kokko no so ano ye ya esin white no wan wo piade a wo be ye gene mana tirimu pa e kokko no ba wo piade a e different from dia e white no sanity.
That'll be all for Prime Business tonight. My name is Emma Davis. For more business news, do log on to myjoyonline.com. Up next is Prime Sports with Razak Misbah. Please stay.